Please come to order. Good morning. Welcome to the Commissioners of St. Mary's County meeting this date, Tuesday, June 8th, 2021. I am Randy Guy, Commissioner President, St. Mary's County. I'd like to introduce the other commissioners. Sitting to my right, representing the 1st Commissioner District, which includes Bridge, Piney Point, St. George Island, Mr. Eric Colvin.
Good morning.
Mike Hewitt, who represents the 2nd Commissioner District, which includes Leonardtown and Hollywood.
Good morning.
Representing the 3rd Commissioner District, which includes Charlotte Hall, 7th District, Golden Beach, and Mechanicsville, Mr. John O'Connor.
Good morning.
Representing the 4th Commissioner District, which includes Lexington Park, some of California, and Great Mills, and some of Hollywood, Mr. Todd Morgan. David Weiskopf, our County Attorney and Acting County Administrator, is sitting at the table to my left. Elisa Casas, our Communications Director, is sitting at the table to my right.
Good morning.
Amy Carter, our video media producer, is behind the glass. Please turn your cell phones off or on vibrate. Many of you know that County Administrator Dr. Rebecca Bridget is out of the office on family medical leave. On behalf of all the commissioners, we send her our wishes for a speedy recovery and good health. During Dr. Bridget's absence, County Attorney David Weiskopf and Human Resources Director Catherine Pratston will provide administrative support to the county. At this time, we'll have the invocation and pledge by Commissioner Hewitt. Please stand.
Dear Lord, thank you for this beautiful day. It's a little hot, been a little hot. Could use some rain and some cooler temperatures. Please put your blessings on our County Administrator, Dr. Rebecca Bridget, also County Attorney David Weiskopf and HR Director Catherine Pratston, and give them the knowledge they need to bring this county forward, as I know you will. Please give us the wisdom to make the right decisions for the people we serve and the courage to follow through on those convictions. All this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Hewitt. Next, I have approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, all in favor? Aye. So be. Next, we have a presentation from the Department of Human Resources Years of Service Award. Ms. Catherine Pratston, our Director of Human Resources. She will read the name of each employee receiving a certificate. The employees will then come forward with their certifications for a picture. You got it, Catherine.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is my pleasure today to present the Years of Service Awards. The Years of Service Awards recognizes employees with continuous service of 10 years or more, and employees being honored this morning have spent much of their professional lives as public servants. Every resident of St. Mary's County has been impacted by some manner by the work of these individuals. 74 county employees in total are being recognized for achieving years of service milestones in 2020. Today, it is my pleasure to present employees who have achieved 15 years of service to St. Mary's government and to the citizens of St. Mary's County. We are truly humbled by the commitment of these individuals and thank them sincerely for their dedication to county government. And without further delay, I'll call forward the individuals who are present to receive their awards, and supervisors and department heads that are here, please join them for a photo. So we have Ray Pilger from DPW&T and Gary Whipple. Gary mustn't have been able to make it today. Please, congratulations. We're going to do a picture with the whole group. Thank you. Jennifer Earhart, a senior human resources specialist from HR.
Maybe I'll stay standing.
Angela Blondino, a paralegal from the County Attorney's Office. Roy Copsey, a supervisor from Rec and Parks. is Sarah here from the State's Attorney's Office? Oh, great. Congratulations. And then lastly, Melissa Murphy from the Sheriff's Office. Congratulations to all of you, and if you'd please come forward for a group picture, we'd appreciate it, and thanks so much. Oh, and Marie, are you going to join us? Come on up. Marie Noel from the Department of Aging is also a recipient. I think I'm good. Oh, that's wonderful.
Thank you all very much for your show.
Employees who were not able to join us today but are also celebrating milestone anniversaries include Dana DiGregorio, Gary Whipple, Sherry Young, Richard Karanik, Tammy Hildebrand, Melissa Craig, Tina Fradatunio, Thomas Johnson, Darlene Mund, Kevin Meyer, Susie Seltzer, and Susan Yekstad. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Who's the girl standing in the gray sweater? I don't know.
Well, it looks, Commissioners, it looks like Dr. Brewster wasn't supposed to be here until 9:30,
Yeah.
so we're running a bit early. Would you like
Well,
to do some?
we could either,
Our main agenda
move
item?
on to main agenda items, but we could. I mean, it's up to, we got everybody here for that.
Mr. Hunt is
Hunt's
not here.
He's not here either. He's not on until 9:50, yeah. Well,
We could do County Administrator, we could do the draft agendas, we could do the STS, Department
okay.
of Public Works.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that then, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll start on with you and,
Thank you. On the draft agendas, we have June 15th and June 22nd. On June 15th, we have a couple of proclamations, National Nurses Assistance Week and World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and a presentation for the Community Corrections Center ribbon cutting, which will be virtual at 9:10. And then you have the Years of Service Awards, which I believe is 10 years, and then County Administrator time, and then you will adjourn after Commissioner's time. And on June 22nd, you'll have a proclamation for John C. Raley's retirement, a presentation for the ribbon cutting for the Sheriff's Office District 3, which will be virtual, a presentation by Human Services for the People's Choice Awards, Department of Human Resources 2021 Safety Matters Award, and then there was going to be a Department of Land Use and Growth Management request for public hearing for the agricultural alcohol production ordinance, but that's going to be delayed a little bit because they're seeking more approval from the Ag Board. They want to vet it some more, so that'll probably be in another week or two. And then in its place, the Department of Human Resources wants to request a public hearing for the LoSAP point award process for 2021. So that's what we'll switch for June 22nd, and then after County Administrator time and Commissioner's time, you'd adjourn. Guess I'd look for a motion for, do you guys approve though?
Nope, that's-
No, okay.
Don't
so
need
that's just
information.
knowledge.
you don't need it.
Just
We-
chug right along, bud.
Okay, and then next we'd have, for County Administrator time, we'd have Department of Public Works and Transportation for the St. Mary's Transit System Staff Reorganization, and John Dietrich is here presenting.
Good morning, and thank you. Good morning.
Pleasure to bring this to you. It is another piece of action that Allison Swint has organized in combination with the Department of Human Resources and the city financial office, chief financial officer. This particular reorganization will help establish a clear chain of command in the office, which is a problem given the existing structure where sort of everyone's equal and no one knows who the boss is except for Allison at this point, which is not a good situation. It also shifts hourly drivers into full-time positions. That has been done with only an additional cost of $3,800 a year, which is, at this point, given the track record in spending down the budget each year, that should be easily absorbed in the existing. Along with establishing that chain of command, getting more full-time drivers is really critical. Ms. Swint has had much better success in reducing call-outs and people who call in sick at the last minute with the full-time drivers because they've got a regular schedule. It sounds kind of basic, but it's true. I mean, when people know where they're going to be 2 weeks from now, that they're not going to get because right now the hourly bus drivers don't really have that structure. They don't, they kind of patch together the schedule each week. And there are a number of hourly bus drivers who would like to move into those vacant positions. Another very good thing, at this time, there's quite a few vacancies in the structure, so this can be done without anybody effectively having to compete for their own job. They can stay right where they are, or they can move up in the organization, and it's pretty comforting, I think, to be able to do that. And Ms. Swint had a Sunday meeting with the bus drivers and went pretty well because that was the one day that she could get everybody together and went through a number of their wishes and wants and our wishes, the department's wishes and wants, and your wishes and wants. And I think we reached a pretty good accord on that. We'll be coming back in next month with a series of updates on a number of other initiatives that are in action. We couldn't get those prepared for today. They're all still kind of in process. Some of them will require a vote by you, and some are just going to be for information. For example, restructuring the fare system because right now, if you go out in one trip and then you get a transfer or you want to do a return trip, you end up spending more money than an all-day pass. So we want to just have one-way journeys and all-day passes. So we'll be bringing that forward to you. We don't completely have the revenue projections done on it yet. So we'll have an update on the bus stop signs on Great Mills Road, bring in example of the sign, and we'd like to have a vote on that because we want to eliminate the flag stops on Great Mills Road because the stops that have been picked because it's where the greatest concentration of people tend to get on the bus. They're safer locations by crosswalks and intersections. We'll also do, Charles County is currently bidding out their shelter contract. It's up for review with MTA right now. We can piggyback on that and buy the shelters that we've already got in our MTA budget with that. So we'll give you an update on how that's going next month. There's also a need to update the ADA ridership application right now. We don't, they never expire. So if somebody sprains an ankle, they get certified for ADA, it never goes away, even though their ankle gets better. And actually, the federal regulations require updating it every 2 years. So we want to bring but we want to vote on that, because we're going to go through an educational campaign, explaining it with people and so forth. Any change is, kind of hard to handle sometimes. And number 5, so the interactive voice response software will allow us to send what is in effect a robocall to someone reminding them of their ADA appointment. We just have way too many no-shows, and Allison's actually put a cost on those of about $24,000 a year from these no-shows. So, we want to bring that back to you, go through it thoroughly, and again, there'd be a vote on that one. 2 more. The implementing the driver's scheduling software, that happens this month, which will, again, tie in with what we're asking in the reorg to be able to establish a regular schedule. And so next month, we'll be able to give you an update on how that's going. And lastly, the procurement for scheduling software, which will, for the, that goes out on the web, which will include the next bus functioning. If you have a smartphone, you'll be able to tell when the bus is going to show up at your stop. That's up at MTA being reviewed right now prior to procurement, and we'll give you an update on that one. So those are the 7 items we'll be bringing back in July that kind of help fill out and take advantage of what we're requesting today.
Very good, very good. Excellent.
Mr. Dietrich,
Sir?
a couple questions. The hourly bus drivers have reached out to me about their discrepancy in pay and benefits, so I strongly support shifting them over to county employees if we can afford it. I'm glad to hear it's only $3,842. That seems too cheap to me, to tell you the truth. But tell me, are they going to be the same salary structure as, say, our STS drivers? So the hourly will all be on the same
Well,
salary structure?
Yeah, based on the budget that passed, my understanding is there's an increase for everyone.
Yes,
in that,
but the thing is, they will be equal to,
They will be plugged
was-
into the normal full-time bus driver.
that was one of their complaints, is that
yeah.
they were a disparity. Second thing is, great on the stabilizing the scheduling, because that was the other thing they complained about, not knowing when they had to work. And they had lives, and they wanted to plan vacations, they wanted to plan stuff, so great job on that. Now, when you talk about this restructure the fare system, is the average rider going to see a fare increase, a fare decrease? Is it going to be cost neutral? What should the person who rides the bus a lot? There's a lot of Mennonite who ride the bus, and they've reached out to me about they've been hearing from their drivers that there's a lot of changes coming. And like anybody, when they don't know what it is, they don't know if it's good or bad. So when you say, is that cost going up or is that cost going down?
It should be effectively cost neutral, but again, that's why we want to wait till next month to bring this back to you. We want to talk to more people. If you are only doing, it's kind of an odd situation. If you're going outbound and you stay where you were going, if
A
you,
one-way trip.
yeah, one-way trip, there's really no cost difference.
Well, let me give an example.
But
People
if you
who-
do a round trip, you would actually be cheaper.
Okay,
to
let me
do it
give you an
that way.
example. These people don't have their own transportation other than horse
Right.
and buggy. So they use the bus to get to somebody's house they may be taking care of or whatever they're doing, and they're there for the day. And then in the evening, get on the bus and come home. Is that a round trip or is that two fares?
They can actually get either an all-day pass, or they could do 2 trips, but it would be cheaper to do an
An all-day, okay. Now
pass.
tell me,
All day is like a round trip pass.
Right.
For days,
Right.
yeah.
so, and you talked about $24,000 worth of no-show cost. Now, so someone's got an ADA, they call you up, say, hey, look, I'm gonna be out here at the bus stop, I need you to pick me up, make sure you get the lift to get me in and out. And those are the people aren't showing up?
Correct.
And that's costing you money because you have to put additional people on the bus, or why is that?
Well, the bus driver's got to drive out to the location.
Okay.
It sits and idles for, I think it's 5 minutes. We give them 5 minutes, actually.
So it's more of an, they don't show up when the bus gets to a special, so it's not part of the route.
It's an empty trip. Yeah, ADA is
They run to
essentially.
people's houses or close by, right, to pick them up.
Correct, yeah. And I know it's, and, you know, we realize some of the people have a little bit of trouble remembering things and all that. And that's why we wanted to get this robocall piece in
I mean,
place.
doctors do it all the time, so I think it's a great
Right.
idea. Now, lastly, on the bus stops, we need bus stops. I'm really glad to hear you're getting the signs, but what about those shelters? How long do you think they are?
Well, if Charles is, we would hope we can start implementing it by next fall, when if Charles gets their contract in
Like in
place.
October
and then we
of
piggyback-
21 or
yeah.
October of 22?
This fall.
Oh,
So,
good.
Yeah, 21. So if Charles gets their contract in place, and there's no reason they shouldn't, we're piggybacking on that. We've already worked out with both Bruce at MTA and Jeff at Charles, how we're gonna do that. And, you know, we're gonna buy X number of shelters. We'll use our sidewalk contract to put in the concrete slab if we need to do that. It looks like, though, that when you buy a shelter through what Charles County's proposing to do, it'll actually include the concrete slab.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we still might have to put some sidewalk in, but it will be a fairly small amount.
Okay, so people should be able to see bus stop shelters by Christmas.
Yes.
Okay.
Or hopefully Thanksgiving.
I'm with you, I'm just trying to
Yeah, I
pay
understand.
you down a little bit. Thank you.
Okay, one other thing, have we added the VA C-Box on both the Charlotte Hall and Great Mills as a part of a stop?
Right, it was a little difficult to figure out because of that weird situation in the median, but it's working.
It's working now, so they've both been included, okay. I just had some call on it.
Particularly ADA though.
Well, that's
and-
different, yeah,
And
yeah.
so that's kind of a door-to-door thing,
Right,
one
I
way or the other, right?
Just to make sure the C-Box are on your,
So is the stop actually at the facility, like I had originally requested, where the STS pulls in and drops them off?
I'm not sure if they go in or whether they're dropped at the side of the road. I've got to verify that. I'll get back to you.
Okay.
because the one at the Charlotte, when they were going into the Charlotte Hall
Correct,
Veterans Home, they drove right up to it.
correct.
So I just want to, try to emphasize that, they should be able to drive in the parking lot, drop them off.
I have to get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
With your bus stop facilities, the shelters, as with anything, when we design it across the county, have you reached out to the sheriff's department to ensure that we're designing them with public safety engineering in mind? Because that is a specific task, because bus stops do become areas of congregation, they do become areas of loitering, drug transactions, various other things. So I want to make sure that when we're designing them, they have the public safety aspect, the visibility, lighting, and everything else that's going to be required.
You say you're following up on the Charles County's Hopefully, they've already done that in Charles County.
Well, I hope so. If not,
Falling behind their contract.
No, well, no, but I think you bring a good point, that we want to share those bus stop locations as well as the shelters
Right.
themselves with the sheriff's office. Yeah, we'll certainly do
yeah,
that.
and just make sure, you don't want them blocked off where people can't see inside of them. You got a deputy driving down the road, they want to be able to see through what is going on. So we don't want solid shelters. So that's important to make sure what Charles County is
Yeah.
doing in their contract.
Yes, definitely do that, and we'll pay a special coordination effort with the District 4 station there, too.
Well, also the District 1 station. I mean, this is countywide, not just.
It will be countywide, but right now, I want to make sure they vet the stops on Great Mills.
Right. All right.
Yep.
I'd be interested to see how you do this cost in a couple weeks. Because a number of years ago, we had a problem with transfer fees. And people were concerned when you went from one stop next, you had to pay more to transfer. And we got rid of that. So if you're going from Lexington Park to Charlotte Hall, you had to transfer, there's no transfer charges.
Right.
So now we're gonna come up with a new fee structure, which is supposed to be, you say, cost neutral. I'll be interested to see how you're gonna do that. My other concern here is, if I'm reading this correctly, you're adding 23 new full-time employees to the county payroll, correct?
I have to refer back. Well,
I'm taking that when I go at the bottom of your
yeah, it's 48
description,
and 48.
anything in red is a new person. So it's 23 new full-time employees you're looking to add, sort of as a replacement for the hourly employees.
Right. But we're reducing, we're eliminating one of the supervisory positions in the office and dropping the classification of another one and eliminating those hourly positions. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, please do, yeah.
So the hourly employees, the hourly drivers, majority of them have health care because they work so many hours, and they're not on OPEB. So the cost for bringing someone on to full-time isn't as significant because they're currently receiving health anyway,
Why are they receiving health?
because of the Affordable Care Act, because they work more than 30 hours.
But that isn't a full, the Affordable Care Act, OPEB, is it the same as the county employee benefit package, is it?
The county employee benefit package is richer, and we took that into consideration, but we backed out what they currently have.
No, I get that, and I see the cost for the benefits goes from $220,000 to $362,000 a year.
Right, and that's health.
I get that part. So my question, sort of rhetorically here, is we just finished a budget 2 weeks ago, and then we're coming back here with a whole big change to how the STS bus drivers are going to be treated. So I'm not sure that this wasn't just something that got thought up a couple weeks ago between the last budget session and now. And we're looking to add this many more full-time employees to the county staff. I think it's sort of, it's bad timing after all the fights we went through at the table here trying to get things adjusted for employees and what everybody wants and how we struggle through the budget. Then all of a sudden, we can just come in literally 2 weeks after the budget. The ink isn't even dry yet, and we're adding 23 new employees to county staff. And I understand how you're swapping out hourly for full-time, but it's still a net cost at the end of the day that carries forward perpetually.
I think that it was considered differently because they're grant, because they're paid by the MTA grant, so I think we thought of them as different than county employees.
The bus drivers are paid for with all grant dollars.
There's some county match, but, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's primarily operational.
And if the grant goes away, we still have to find a way to cover them then, as they become merit employees.
So they all sign an agreement saying if the grant goes away, you know, they may not have a job.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't have retiree health. That's why
They
they
do or
don't
do
have-
not?
They do not. They don't have OPEB because they're grant employees.
Yeah, their job
but
goes away.
But the issue is that once they become full-time employees, you can't collapse a transit system because the grant goes away. So there is no option of saying, have a nice day. They get rolled over. I mean, Commissioner Morgan does have a very, very valid point because, I mean, the arguments were made not growing county government by 90 positions. We reduced other funding and positions based on long-term funding and/or the unknown, various different things. So I think the timing in adding 20, how many did you say it was? I'm sorry.
23.
23 positions. I mean, there was one section of the budget that we reduced 23 positions exactly,
Right.
you know, which was a critical safety infrastructure portion. So when we talk about STS and the long-term funding, I don't know if it's timing. I mean, or it was just looked at differently. I'm not saying there's anything dubious going on. I think this is just how the process played out. But the long-term impacts of offering the retirement that is going to have to be given to them as full-time employees. I mean, what are those impacts? Because those are things, some of the things we didn't get a chance to consider during the budget, as well as was considered for other positions.
So if we weren't to get the grant funding, for example, there would be a reduction in force process. There's no obligation to continue the employment. The drivers will have access to the Maryland pension. And if they're not eligible to retire, they would just get their contributions back.
Right. But I think the biggest thing here is that once we get these bus stops in place, we get the signs in place, we get a stable system, hopefully the app that is going to be going, there's a system here that can't collapse because we lose a grant. So no matter what, the county's going to have to absorb those
Yeah, there's going to be
impacts.
some big changes that would have to happen and major costs that would come back to the county if you're going to try to run the whole system without a grant. It's just the fact of life. I mean, you'd either have to put considerably more money into it, or you'd have to effectively double the subsidy, or half the service would go away.
Which the
I mean,
subsidy is roughly $3 million now, right?
Yeah.
Roughly. So we would have to, so it would be almost a $6 million impact to the county and I don't foresee it based on the way transit is and the dedication by the state, but
Yeah.
that's a huge impact, far over a $2.9 million impact that we definitely considered seriously.
How long has MTA been funding our buses? Forever?
Forever. I mean,
So the probability of this failing is probably
It's-
pretty rare.
pretty minuscule. As long as I've been involved, I've been working since '73. There's always been federal grants that go to the states to cover bus operations, and bus has become, the emails I get from the Fed have put increased emphasis on bus transit.
We're in the nature right now, we're trying to increase
on
people to
rail.
ride buses, trains, whatever,
Correct.
and get off their vehicles. So, I mean, I cannot imagine this failing. I can't. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not saying anything's possible. But now this $3,800 per 23 FTEs, we absorb that, or is that being covered by these MTA grants? The increase of 3,800
It's very likely covered by their current operations.
by the current operations right now?
Right.
Okay. So
Yeah,
actually, there's
and-
no funding for us at this time.
Correct, yeah.
We can't assume there'll be a failure in the next 2 or 3 years, I would say.
Yeah, and the assumption is that there'll be a reduction in overtime once the schedules are more predictable and we have more full-time.
And this gives more stable transportation system by having these people full-time.
Yeah. Yesterday, there were, what did Allison say, 4 drivers that had to do double shifts
Right.
because of the problem we're in. And that's just completely unacceptable.
I agree.
It's exhausting for the drivers, and
You make it, it's a safety problem right there. Yeah, no problem. No doubt.
absolutely.
I agree.
It's not that I would assume that the grant funding is going to go away. I would say to Commissioner Morgan's point, it's something that we need to be prepared for and accept moving forward, that if this grant funding is even reduced by any amount, I mean, right now, they're funding the rapid transit plan for Charles County, the quote-unquote purple line, I guess it is. That's going to be running from Prince George's straight down. So that's going to be diverting a lot of transit money. Charles County is getting some. And when it comes to St. Mary's County, historically, our funding has always been reduced to include highway user revenues that have gone to these other plans.
Well, they were reduced 10
So-
years ago.
Yeah, so I mean, it's important that we understand that making this decision, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Morgan, I'm not trying to speak for you here, that there's long-term cost implications that could be associated with this.
Correct.
And at a minimum, the reduction in force process would have to be followed, where with hourly employees, it would not.
Okay.
I understand the principle and the mechanics behind it, believe me. And I understand the importance of the public transportation system to the county. I just find the timing of saying I want 23 new employees full-time 2 weeks after the budget was done, and recognizing the federal grant process and how that does work. I get all that. I just think the process and the timing of bringing it to the dais here is lousy, and it paints a very bad optic. Again, as you said, number of hourly drivers didn't come in yesterday or weren't available, so somebody had to double up. But all of a sudden, once they become full-time county employees, that problem seems to go away. That just is,
Well, we have vacancies, and that's why we had the doubling up yesterday. And people don't want to hire. You know, the younger crowd wants benefits. And unless, as Catherine pointed out, they're working all of these double shifts and so forth, they don't really get much. They get sick and safe after a year, right? And health. But they want something more secure than that. They want to have benefits. They want to have that 40-hour-a-week deal. And that's what this would bring us. And I feel that the morning drivers are where all the full-time positions are right now, and the afternoon is where we have so many RTPs and hourlies filling in, and that's kind of where the chaos is.
so all the hourlies will somehow have a revelation, and once they become a full-time employee, it'll be not a problem anymore?
Well, it's that there are
Ms.
more.
Pratson, I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you pull your microphone a little closer? Ms. Pratson?
Oh, sure.
I'm so sorry.
I just think they're more accountable.
Excuse me?
They're more accountable as merit employees than they would be, or as grant employees than they would be as hourly.
Like I said,
Yeah.
once they get a full-time job, instead of being paid hourly, their outlook on life changes.
Right.
So more government, happier people.
Well, how long have you been working on this project of transferring this reorg? How long?
2019.
How long?
2019.
Okay, so
And we went through the outsourcing and so forth.
Yeah,
and-
we were going through all that process, but
And-
outsourced it.
Right, and then brought in Ms. Swint's duties to include become a deputy director and take on the transit and the vehicle service.
Okay, so when you got to this point, we were working on it since 2019. When was the decision made that you wanted to make these changes? Like you wanted to do this reorg?
Oh, we've worked on it all spring. And I apologize for the timing. In our mind, it was more current positions. It wasn't really a new fiscal year change. It was more current. We were thinking of it as grant and FY '21, and didn't think of it as FY '22. So
And,
Could you
Please
please step
come
to
up.
the mic?
yes, please, just,
With the previous acting supervisor's departure, which was March 10th, all of this really kind of started to come together. So it's really been a frontline project since March 10th. There was a lot of back and forth with HR, just talking about different scenarios, different titles, different responsibilities, and it's taken about 3 months to pull it all together and bring it before you.
So conceivably, it could have been brought into the budget. And the reason I ask is because there was other department heads, and we had very contentious conversation about many things that happened in which this separate process probably could have happened outside of the budget and changed things significantly, where it didn't have to actually go through the budget work session if we were going to do it this way. On this one, I just think that the timing is, while you're saying that in March and that it was cost neutral, that I don't know, for me, this is a tough one, just simply because of the many conversations we had during the budget work session, and that it didn't come up at all.
So I understand the concerns the other commissioners are voicing, just the timing issue, but I'm not overly concerned about it. I think you all have been working really hard, and I think this board and the previous board have been very committed to improving our STS system, and so it's good to see the progress. It's good, thank you for giving us a heads up on the stuff that's coming up in a month or two. It's good that we're seeing progress and that we're moving forward. So I'm going to go ahead and make the motion. I move to approve the reorganization of STS to improve management and accountability and improve its ability to hire and retain bus operators.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any disapproval?
Nay.
No.
One nay,
No.
2 nays. Got 3 ayes. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Dr. Brewster is here, Commissioner.
Okay, well, that sounds good. Dr. Brewster, if you please come forward. And I think the first thing we do, we need a motion.
Oh, yeah. I move to adjourn as the Commissioners of St. Mary's County and reconvene as the St. Mary's County Board of Health.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Ayes have it. Dr.
Morning.
Brewster, it's up to you.
Morning.
How are you, sirs? Great. We have just 20 minutes scheduled for us today. So I've got a brief update for you, and of course, I'm happy to stay longer for questions. Thank you. You can go over to our data website. So as of yesterday, we had 7,319 cases since the beginning of the pandemic in St. Mary's County. The weekly number of new cases last week was the lowest that we've seen since the beginning of the pandemic in early April 2020. The new case rate now, if you scroll down to the new case rate, so that's our new cases by week. I was mentioning the weekly number from last week is the lowest we've seen in quite a while. The new case rate, this one here, if you scroll over, thank you, is at 1.74 per day per 100,000 persons. So the new case rates have actually been dropping in each age category. The graph below illustrates that, which is an awesome trend and much better than when I came to you previously. We are seeing, sorry to bump you back up to where the variant tiles are. We are seeing more variant cases right there. More variant cases identified through genomic analysis of some of those clinical samples. And again, just as a reminder, we're only testing some of the clinical samples for these variant viruses. The one that we're particularly concerned about, obviously the UK, the one up in the top corner there, the 21, is now the predominant strain in the country. But the one that we're keeping a very close eye out for is the Delta strain, or the one that emerged out of India. The UK, countries in the UK have started to see an increase in their case rates, and they think it may be due to the emergence of the Delta virus variant, and that the Delta variant seems to be causing more aggressive disease and seems to be more contagious, at least based on their experience in the UK. We haven't seen that yet in the US, but of course, many of our states are actively advocating for vaccination because we do know that the vaccine protects against the Delta variant. At the same time, keeping a very close eye on the genomic analyses to see if there's an emergence of Delta variant here in the US. If you trend down to the hospitalizations tab, I think we may have, yeah, right, that one. Thank you. You could scroll that over. So overall, we were seeing, as when I was here last time, an increasing trend in hospitalizations. We're still seeing hospitalizations in the single digits, and higher than what we saw at the very beginning of the pandemic. So that still is something we're monitoring. The trend has been upwards, not the downward decline that we want to see in hospitalizations. But we also recognize that hospitalizations tend to lag a few weeks behind the data. So hopefully we'll start to see a decline in hospitalizations. One of the concerns with hospitalizations as we monitor what's going on around the globe is that younger people are getting sicker from some of these variant viruses. And just nationally, I know the CDC commented nationally how our data seems to indicate more and more younger people getting hospitalized, which would make sense because we have much higher vaccine rates in our seniors, who were the ones that were getting primarily hospitalized before. But since we have lower vaccine rates in our younger people, we're starting to see their presence in hospitals more, especially with these more severe variants.
Excuse me, Doc, so would you say that the hospitalizations are younger individuals versus older now?
Not necessarily just for here in the county, but nationally, that's a concern that is emerging, is that for people in their 40s, 50s, 30s, even young adolescents and children are getting hospitalized now more than what we saw before.
No, that part I see on the news, but what are we doing in St. Mary's? Can you tell us?
Yeah, so in St. Mary's, I don't have the age distribution of our hospitalizations here for you. We have had young children hospitalized that are St. Mary's County residents, not necessarily here at MedStar St. Mary's Hospital. What we look at this data here reflects hospitalizations of residents at any Maryland hospital. And so we continue to see people who have not been vaccinated who get COVID that get hospitalized. The vast majority of hospitalizations are happening in people who are not vaccinated or who are only partly vaccinated.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Brewster, are the younger people coming in, are they getting as sick as, I remember we used to have people on ventilators and whatnot.
Sure.
Is it that bad?
Yeah, so obviously when a hospitalization happens, it's usually happening is because somebody's pretty sick.
Okay.
And they're sick enough to be in a hospital setting. Maybe not ICU care, but they're sick enough to need some additional support.
I guess we tend to hear that the younger people, while they're impacted, are not as sick as.
Right. And that's what we saw since the beginning of the pandemic, that younger people, particularly younger people who don't have things like asthma and heart conditions and so forth, that they tend to have mild or even asymptomatic illness. But that's not true in all cases. I mean, we've been concerned about multi-inflammatory syndrome in kids. There's been about 100 or so cases in Maryland of that in children. What we're finding and what we're concerned about are these variant viruses. And if these variant viruses are causing worse illness in younger people, then we're starting to see younger people with more symptoms. And the Delta virus, the one that emerged out of India that I was describing earlier, is the one that we're watching in terms of what's happening in the UK with that virus. The other picture to this that we didn't describe in the beginning of the pandemic because we didn't have the benefit of time is that we're seeing more and more issues with long COVID. And long COVID is when people are having these prolonged symptoms of COVID-19. So they may not be contagious anymore, but they're still not able to breathe as easily as they were before. Maybe they still have a loss of taste or a loss of smell. Maybe they have a lot of fatigue, or they could be dealing with memory issues or difficulty concentrating. And so we're seeing these symptoms continue, and we are seeing these symptoms affect younger people, even younger people who didn't have symptoms of COVID or who had just mild infection.
So again, people with higher immune compromised situations are more likely to be sick. whether you're young or old.
Sure, and that's true for most illnesses. If you have any additional conditions, including obesity, including asthma, diabetes, and any of these common heart conditions that we see out there as well, then yes, absolutely. I think what I'm describing here, though, is the concern still exists for people without all those conditions, and that's why we're encouraging people to consider a vaccine if they're eligible for it. All right, so overall, doing much better, and we're waiting to see how the recent Memorial Day holiday might impact our local cases. But this picture looks wonderful compared to even just a few weeks ago, so thank you, very encouraging. If we go to the next, back to the slide set, and I'll talk about vaccine data in a moment. Just a couple updates. Testing, we're continuing to offer testing at 4 different sites run by the health department in our county, including the Leonardtown site. We're still at our harm reduction office in Lexington Park, although hopefully within a couple weeks, we'll be transitioning to the PNC Bank site off of Great Mills Road. And then the 2 school-based health centers are offering testing as well for our community. Go to the next. An update for this, last time I was here, I talked about the new rapid PCR testing at the Leonardtown location of the health department. I do want to say that we've expanded eligibility for that rapid PCR testing. And again, PCR testing is the most reliable test for COVID infection that we have. So any resident who has COVID symptoms or has been identified as a close contact through contact tracing is eligible now to get that rapid PCR testing that we have at the Leonardtown Health Department office. They do need to call ahead, and they can call that health department main office number at 301-475-4330. They may need to wait up to 4 hours, although more commonly less than 1 hour for that test result to happen. And that's because when we're using the machine to run the test, we like to run a few samples at a time, so we're not wasting some of the reagents. And so we might need to wait a little bit for other samples to come in. So it's same day results within a few hours, if not within an hour. If you could go to the next slide, please. Our vaccine page, all these sites provide plenty of information. I do want to draw attention to what's happening with where we're doing vaccine administration, where to go. That's being updated. As you know, we have been so very grateful to the Hollywood Volunteer Fire Department team who have let us use their facility for many months. And we've run mass vaccine clinics nearly every day through that Hollywood Volunteer Fire Department mass vaccine site. We are in the process of winding down operations there. We still have some first dose clinics, including today, this morning until 1 o'clock, we're doing first doses over there. So if anybody watching wants to get a vaccine, please show up. And we're going to continue to do some first doses, and we are definitely still doing all of the second doses clinics that are due through probably mid-July. We'll likely be taking a pause for some weeks and then restarting mass vaccine operations when we have authorization to vaccinate younger ages than what's currently authorized, and or when we have guidance on booster doses of vaccine. So in the meantime,
How low, what's the age group right now? What's it,
right now
12
it's
years
anybody 12 and older.
12 and older,
We will
okay.
vaccinate anybody 12 and older.
12 and older. Okay.
Thank you, sir, for asking. Our strategy now is to transition to the next slide, which is really about transitioning into a variety of events in the community. So we're coordinating with a variety of community organizations and partners and making sure that we have a presence in our community at all these different community events as best as we can to offer vaccine on site at these vaccine events and different workplaces and faith-based settings and so forth. So any group can contact us at this email or phone number shown here to set up either actual vaccine delivery, or at least if we don't have the staffing to provide vaccine delivery on site, then we'll definitely send a team out to provide information and resources and scheduling for vaccine.
I understand Friday your site in the northern part of the county didn't draw a very big crowd?
Yeah, we're going to keep trying. At this point in time, it's.
Is there a lack of getting information out to the people or advertisement?
I think it's just
think
there's
the
some people
homeowner
that still have
association-
questions
The
about.
Homeowner Association put out a newsletter and everything, but then,
Yeah, and we appreciate that partnership, and we're going to keep trying. We're going all over the county. We're going to a variety of events in all the different geographic spaces of our county. And we're just going to keep trying to meet people where they are, and when they're ready to get vaccine, we'll be there to help them.
I just don't know what else we can do to tell people to get out there.
Yeah. Well, I think it's
We're
important
making the effort to put these around the county.
there's a lot of
Or we
myths.
up north and do it, and then nobody shows up, or about, what, 8 people?
Yeah, there's a lot of myths and misinformation still out there, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's too bad.
And I think it's important for people to, if you've been vaccinated, or, if you're looking at the science, to share that with people in your circles, and to encourage people in your circles to get vaccine, encourage them to get their kids vaccinated if their kids are 12 and older. I think, there's been so many questions, and that's natural. It's a new virus, a new pandemic. It's natural to have questions, but we also have now had months and months of millions of people getting these vaccines, great safety data, great effectiveness data from these multiple millions of people across the world getting these vaccines. And really, I think we want to just kind of squelch this pandemic and move on. So
Done fine for me. I didn't grow any extra appendages anywhere. I feel fine, so
Yeah,
I appreciate my vaccination in February.
Right. Good. I'm glad. And please share that with your circles.
I
Fortunately,
tell
as I'll
people.
talk about in a moment, our vaccine rates have been great in certain age groups. I do want to mention, as I mentioned, we have a couple of great vaccine events coming up. This is one that we just announced by press release this morning. Really pleased to partner with Flatbrook Shooters and the Sheriff's Office on bringing this community event. It's called Shots on the Range. And the team at Flatbrook Shooters have been absolutely wonderful people. They've really are people who care about their community, and we are so appreciative for them and Sheriff Cameron, who made the introduction and steered this partnership. We will be there on June 15th from noon to 6 at Flatbrook Shooters at the Firearms Training Center, and providing Pfizer vaccine to anybody 12 and older. You can register in advance, which we appreciate, but then we're also accepting walk-ups at that event. And then the second dose will also be at Flatbrook Shooters a few weeks later.
And
Anyone
what is
who-
their address? What's their address?
I don't have it listed here, but we have it all on our website.
Okay.
And actually, the link for registering for the vaccine is up there. It's done in Lexington Park. I think after you pass Great Mills Road on the left-hand side. Sorry, I'm terrible with directions. So somebody maybe could be able to pop up.
It's across from Mattapani Road,
Thank you. Thank
where
you.
Pulliam's store used to be, or Dave's is now, but you make a left-hand turn, go down the road, a mile on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
You can't miss it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful facility. For anybody who hasn't been indoors, I went for the first time when I met the owners and spoke with them about setting up this event, and absolutely beautifully done, organized, safe, really wonderful setup. So we're excited to be there for vaccines next Tuesday. And anybody who gets a vaccine will get a free range safety card, so that they can use it for future visits to the range. The range will be closed for use in order to accommodate the event, but certainly this will be a great way for people to get introduced to the facility. And they also, Flatbrook Shooters very kindly is doing free giveaways, and they're also doing discounts on their merchandise. And we will also have Q&A sessions. I'll be there to do some Q&A sessions about the COVID vaccine. And also the Sheriff's Office will be there to do some sessions about Maryland gun laws and gun safety techniques. And we'll also be distributing free gun locks to anybody who comes to the event.
Very
Whoa,
good.
whoa, whoa, let's go back.
Sure.
There's some real good questions here.
Okay, go for it.
So we're gonna give away a few things, right? Does that mean we're gonna have guns and bullet discounts?
I'm not sure about that kind of
Box?
merchandise
I mean,
discount.
there could be some really, this could be very enticing for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well,
Very
that's why we approached them, and that's why we're so pleased to partner with them. I think absolutely. We are distributing free gun locks. We got a bunch of gun locks from that we're going to be able to distribute. The Sheriff's Office has some that they're distributing, as well as Flatbrook Shooters. We're looking into getting some additional gun safes as well that we'll be able to raffle off. I'm not sure for sure that we'll have them by then, but we're going to try. And then Flatbrook Shooters, as I mentioned, is doing merchandise discounts and some other types of free giveaways, T-shirts, things like that.
Okay,
I'm not sure about the guns and the ammunition.
just, gotta be thinking ahead here. you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a great place to go, and they certainly have, like I said, a beautiful facility, and really just a wonderful, wonderful couple who manages and owns that facility. I think they are very community-minded and recognize the need and are stepping forward to help out. So appreciate them. All right, if we go to the next one. Another event that I wanted to highlight today is obviously Juneteenth is such a special and historic day all over our country and certainly here in St. Mary's County. So Juneteenth is Saturday, June 19th from noon to 6 p.m. at Lancaster Park. And the United Committee for Afro-American Contributions have been great partners as well. We've been working with the Minority Outreach Coalition as well. We'll be offering Pfizer vaccine for anybody age 12 and older during this whole event at Lancaster Park. Walk-ups are fine, although people can certainly register in advance as well on our website. So this event has a variety of things going on, including live jazz music, and we'll be there vaccinating the whole time. We can go to the next. Who's getting vaccinated? So these are just some updates on our numbers. And we added in a couple more age categories. You'll start to see sometime in the next few days, we're going to add in another category of 12 and over. But you can see some, the minors were at about 10% have received their first dose. Adults, it's almost 60% have received their first dose. These are all St. Mary's County residents. And if you look specifically at the 65 and older group, where we were previously most concerned about hospitalizations and severe illness and so forth, their rates are nearing 90% at that 87.2%. So right now, it's about 51% of our total population in St. Mary's County. So that includes residents who are not age eligible for vaccine, yet are still susceptible to COVID infection. So 51% is a good number, but it's not where we are anticipated to have the protection against the spread of infection as cases occur. So the herd immunity concept that people have talked about, they kind of link to more closer to 70% or even higher. Some experts suggest 80% is what's needed. I think if we've got a ways to go before we get there. And so that's, again, we're really encouraging people to get vaccinated. As we start to look at kids returning full-time in person in the fall to school, I encourage parents to think about it. It takes about 5 weeks for somebody to get fully vaccinated. So if you want to get your kid vaccinated before they go back in person full-time to school and in the late August, early September, start by at least mid-July. And we'll definitely get more messages out about the availability of vaccine for all these different age groups.
Dr. Bruce, this is probably something we were worried about a while back, is when we when we finally reached a point where people aren't taking every vaccine that you have. Now, do you have extra vaccines now?
Absolutely, yeah. We have all 3 vaccines.
So you have plenty of supply,
We have plenty of supply. We need more arms. Yeah.
but demand has gone down.
Absolutely, yeah. And this is what people call the vaccine hesitancy wall, and it's across the whole country, not just here in St. Mary's County, but certainly, we're going to do whatever we can to be in different places. We know people needed time to think about it. We know people need the right moment to get it done. So we'll try to be there when those right moments are happening.
So I guess where I'm going with this, you'll continue to give these vaccines for as long as you're a health department, right?
For as long as the COVID pandemic's going on and we're needed to assist vaccination in our community.
Well, I guess my point is that we keep hearing about, every year my wife and I get the flu shot. And it'll just be that same type of thing, right? Where you just get a flu shot every year?
That's a great question, Commissioner. That's not something that science has answered yet, as how often these COVID vaccines need to be administered. Right now, our focus is to try to get over this pandemic and to get to a level where we're not having these periodic cases that then infect others and we have periodic outbreaks. So if we can get more people vaccinated right now, we're hopeful that this will help us get out of the pandemic status and the concern about ongoing spread of this virus. In the future, I don't know if we're going to have COVID vaccine on an annual basis like we have flu vaccine. People think, there seems to be general thought that, yes, well, this will likely be a vaccine that we'll need to get periodically. I don't know if it's going to be annual or biannual or some other level of frequency. If it is, we may, as a health department, have a role in providing vaccine for that purpose. But we're also hoping, you know, all the pharmacies and the primary care doctors will have this routinely in their office like they do with flu vaccine, and that we're not necessarily the primary source of vaccine as we have been over the past several months.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. If we go over to the next slide, these are the kind of the racial ethnic distribution of vaccine. We definitely have seen our percentages increase slowly but surely in our minority communities. In particular, what I'm pointing out here are African American residents. 14.2% of all vaccines, first dose vaccines administered, have been administered to African American residents here in St. Mary's County. And for those who identify as Hispanic in ethnicity, it's 3.2%, which is somewhat similar to the 4 to 5% population representation that's estimated for individuals identifying as Hispanic. And the last slide is just, again, appointments are available. As you mentioned, Commissioner Hewitt, thank you. We have all 3 vaccines. If people are interested in Johnson & Johnson vaccine, we'll be at, I believe that's being distributed at the farmers market this Saturday at the BAE Farmers Market. And then we're also going to be at the Women's Auxiliary Craft Fair at the inside at the Hollywood Fire Department on Saturday as well.
Good.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you, sirs. Any
Just one
questions?
question. I know that the Amish and Mennonite communities have been volunteering significantly and are seeking employment in the healthcare professional field.
Okay.
I know there's some obstacles that have been found with identification for employment. Is there anything that you would need from us beyond working with Senator Bailey to ensure that they can get their identifications through the MVA and to help with the health care that you've been providing?
I'd definitely like to explore that a little bit more with you, Commissioner. I'm not aware of what barriers there may be for them to get involved with the healthcare professions, but certainly we can look into that. I mean, as a health department, we provide the birth certificates and so forth that can be helpful for identification purposes. And we do home birth registration for our Amish community. I mean, we meet with them regularly, actually, to register all those home births.
Yeah.
So we do hold all those birth certificates and can assist with that.
It's an MVA thing. I don't know. We can have a further discussion about it and from there, but it comes down to their photos. You know, they
Yes.
don't have a photo on a driver's. You have to have a photo on a driver's license, but you don't have to have one on an ID card.
Right.
Religious exemptions and things like that. But I just want to make sure that we're tracking along because that effort that they gave during this pandemic, I don't want to lose that momentum. and
Sure,
especially what
sure,
you've been working
absolutely, and thank you for raising that. I'm certainly happy to participate in further conversations on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've talked to several of the elders in the Amish community. They do not get the shots.
Yeah,
They don't want to.
yeah, and you know, it's interesting, I think.
I argued with one of them, and he said, hey, we kind of expose ourselves only to our own community and stay away from you general public people. I said, okay, buddy.
Yeah,
if
although
that's the
there
way
are
you wanna
farmers
live."
markets and so forth,
Yeah,
where
they
there's lots
do
of.
gather there, so I mean, I just told them that. I said, look, you're sending your people down with wagons right now to the markets, and they're exposed to all of us there. And I said, you need to
We
think
we
about
have
this.
reached out
Have you
on
really?
several
Okay.
occasions to leaders within both the Amish and Mennonite communities,
Right.
and there have been, you know, some number who've adopted vaccine collectively from the Amish and Mennonite community. And we also have a relationship that we've built up with our Amish community here locally, where we
Good,
do
good.
go out and we provide a vaccine clinic for some other vaccines. So my understanding is the religion doesn't prohibit vaccination, but it does encourage consultation with the elders in the community and their guidance and seeking
Right.
their guidance
Right.
and what to do. But we do have, as I mentioned, a partnership that we've established over many years. It's actually been recognized nationally in the public health circles as a
Have we
good.
noticed any kind of COVID illnesses amongst our Amish Mennonite community?
So there have been some illnesses diagnosed. I'm not able to go into the direct
That's
numbers
okay.
for you.
That's okay. I was just trying to figure what.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions, commissioners?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
you all very much.
Dr. Brewster, thank you for all your work.
Thank you, sir.
Move to adjourn as the St. Mary's County Board of Health and reconvene as the Commissioners of St. Mary's County.
Second.
First and second, all approved? Aye. Any nays? Ayes have it. Thank you, Dr. Brewster, very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have coming back now to the Department of Land Use and Growth Management for our decision on the proposed ordinance to allow private piers and waterfront subdivisions that were platted prior to December 31st, 1994, that have a community pier, whatever all that is.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Thank you, Commissioners.
Morning.
The Code of Maryland regulations for the critical area allows private piers and subdivisions platted before December 31st, 1994, even when there is a community pier. The St. Mary's County zoning ordinance, however, prohibits private piers when there is a community pier without exception. This amendment to the county zoning ordinance will allow the same exemption as is allowed by the state law. After the commissioners agreed to have the public hearing, I sent a copy of the proposed ordinance to critical area staff, and they reviewed it and returned the comment that we see no conflict with the critical area law or regulations. The public hearing on this amendment was held on May 18th, 2021. 4 letters or email in support were received prior to the public hearing. At the public hearing, 1 resident spoke in person and 1 teleconferenced in. The comments were in support of the proposed amendment. One email in support was received during the open records period. We have not received any comments opposing the proposed amendment. Approving this amendment, it's important to note, will allow owners to apply for a private pier. Applicants will still have to comply with other CZO regulations, critical area law, Maryland Department of the Environment regulations, and also, if their homeowners association where they live have restrictions or standards regarding piers, they would have to meet those as well. Of course, the county doesn't enforce these private regulations, but if they're there, that would be something that the owner needed to be aware of. And if the amendment is accepted today, it will be sent to the Critical Area Commission for them to formally review it as a revision to, a refinement to the local critical area program.
Right.
Harry Knight's with me today. Are there any questions about this proposed amendment?
So assuming we approve this, we still need Critical Area Commission to approve it also. And we've got an ace in the hole with that.
Well, I wouldn't
So-
call it that, but refinement's a good idea. That's the ace versus a project. That's what we want.
Right. But having sent the text up there before, I hope and get the simple, yes, we see no conflict. Plus, when this was being developed, Mr. Weiskopf had extensive email conversations with the critical area, letting them know what we wanted to do. They provided us the example from state law that it provides the exception, so I don't see any problems with them getting it.
Very good.
Yeah, I don't either. But tell me, after 94, the new rules still apply? Like if you were platted January 1st, 95, you still cannot have these piers and
Cannot,
waterfront?
because
Okay.
that's when the state law changed.
The other thing is, you said HOA rules will take precedent over county policy or county?
They can. If you're a member of an HOA, whatever you signed on to when you bought your property.
Good point, good point, good point. Okay, I'm just trying to make sure that we didn't trump somebody or they didn't trump us.
Well, it's not really a Trump situation, sir. It's
That's
a,
kind of what you agreed to.
yeah,
I
exactly.
got you.
I move to approve the proposed ordinance to amend the St. Mary's County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to allow private piers and subdivisions plotted before December 31st, 1994, that have a community pier and have the commissioner present sign the related documents.
Second.
Got a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Knight, for being here. Okay, I think that brings us right down. I think we completed everything. You think, Dave?
That is
we-
correct, Your Honor.
Good enough, thank you very much. We'll move right into commissioner time, and we'll start with Commissioner Morgan.
Thanks, Mr. President. I guess everybody, welcome back from Memorial Day. I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. Went from cold and damp to hot and humid, and I guess we'll stay at hot and humid for the week till we get to cold and damp over the weekend again. Sports update. College sports. interesting couple days. Probably most of you, I'm hoping a lot of people paying attention, but most people may not. Yesterday, the JMU girls women's softball team lost in their quest for a national championship. They were the Cinderella team, unranked, went in, won their first 3 games against top-ranked teams, but unfortunately fell to top-ranked Oklahoma yesterday in a really tough game at the end of the afternoon. I think it was 7-1. But their pitcher is a girl named Adusi Alexander. I think I got her name right. She's from Virginia. And she has this great and wonderful self-made story about how she worked her way up to playing softball at JMU and became the pitcher, and she was the Cinderella of the championship. So if you get a chance to go back and watch Sports or something, listen to her interview at the end of the day and give tribute to a girl who really is self-made, she's confident, she did a great job, and she had the women's softball world looking down upon her in what she did. So congratulations to JMU on your success. But today at noon, Division III Men's College World Series. Salisbury, the Gulls, from over there on the Eastern Shore, playing against St. Thomas, Minnesota. They won yesterday 6-1. They play today at noon. If they win, they're the national champions. If they lose, they'll wait 45 minutes and play game 3. But what's local about this, Scott Cameron, on the baseball team, starting player, hit a home run the other night. And in case you didn't recognize that name, there's a sheriff out there named Cameron. It happens to be his son. So we're cheering for Salisbury this afternoon. And with that, I'm done. Thank you.
Very good. Congratulations. John?
All right. So, of course, the hot weather is upon us. So if you're looking for cooling centers, keep an eye on county government if the cooling centers start to open up based on the heat. And make sure that you're staying hydrated. You know, if you're out there working out or you're just taking your stroll, this humidity can play a trick on you. So make sure that you're drinking plenty of fluids, water, Gatorade, whatever it is that you so choose, especially with the heat wave coming upon us. I think that's very important. Event going on, Overflow Festival. It's going to be virtually live. It's down at historic St. Mary's City, and you can find it at overflowfestival.org. So this was a request by some of the organizers to go ahead and, just basically push it out there, let everybody know that, there are events going on in the county. And if you don't know what go-go music is, this is probably a decent time to go ahead and find out. If you've lived in the DC, DMV area and you don't know what go-go music is, I don't know where you've been, but for those that have moved to the area, it's a very unique music genre. It is came out of the district, and it has made its way across the DMV over many, many years. I could tell you when I first came here, I was a little, I didn't really get it, and then after I listened to it for a while, I was like, all right, cool, I like it. But it depends on what band it is. So it looks like they have BOE, Subtle, DC Vibe Band, and Let It Flow. I've heard DC Vibe Band before. They're great. So I think you'll be in for a great show and some great entertainment. So with that said, that is, did I say the date? Yeah, June 12th, this Saturday. Go to the website, check it out. Get out of your house, stay hydrated. I think they're going to have some wine. So make sure you drink water with the wine. Thanks.
Eric?
Very good. Start off on a somewhat serious note. A week or two ago, I was watching a news report on the BBC about COVID in India. Now, I don't know if you've been paying attention to what's going on over there, but it's an absolutely terrible situation. My understanding of a lot of factors that play into it, but when the government started to shut down, when they started to finally realize that there was a large problem, they shut down a lot of the cities, and the people who lived in the cities went back to their rural villages and overwhelmed the healthcare systems there. And this BBC camera company, or news company, went in there with their cameras that they had to have hidden because the government didn't want the news media to be able to portray and show what was going on in the hospitals there, how understaffed they are, just terrible, terrible situation. What really hit me watching this is what's happening there is what we discussed here over a year ago about what a worst-case scenario would look like. And so if you want to know what a worst-case scenario could have looked like, take a look at what's going on in India. Just terrible, terrible situation. And thankfully, we heard a really good report today from Dr. Brewster. We're doing really good here. We're seeing our country really starting to come out of COVID, so that's really good news and really good for us. Want to echo Commissioner Morgan's sports report. I was hoping I'd get to go before him because I had it written down on my pad to talk about it. As an alumni of Salisbury University, I'm always cheering for the Gulls, so I'm excited for the baseball team. They've had an incredible season, and it can only get better, so they're doing great. That's wonderful. And also, Salisbury Women's Lacrosse won national championship this year, so go Gulls. It's been a good year for the Gulls. Finally, as the other commissioners have mentioned, it's hot outside. Stay hydrated. Watch out for your pets. Watch out for your vulnerable neighbors. Be careful in this heat. Don't let it get the best of you. And watch out for ticks. I pulled one off the other day. Ticks are out. It's never any good. One of the worst animals in the world. So watch out for ticks and be careful. Thank you.
Mike?
I want to give a shout out to the American Legion Ridge Post 255. Again, they held their Memorial Day ceremony. It was a wonderful ceremony. But I'd like to give a special shout out to a family friend, great guy, Charlie Sims. He's 94 years old. Now, I don't know many 94-year-olds who still ride their Harley Davidson in the Rolling Thunder tribute to the veterans. It's just amazing. Charlie's a great guy. He served in the Navy with my dad, and Lord knows that was during World War II and Korean Wars and different other events. And bottom line is, good on you, Charlie. Keep it up, buddy. I mean, he likes to go down to Buzzy's every day around 4 o'clock for an afternoon of conversation and have a cold one, as he says. And keep it up, buddy. 94. I'm proud of you. Secondly, this past week, even though we've been off for a couple of weeks, we have had things to do. We had our LoSAP and OPEB. As you know, the LoSAP pays our volunteers after so many years of service. And we've recently made a decision to increase that LoSAP by $3.2 million contribution this year. It's going to put us in a better position to get better investments. That investment right now is around $6 million. This new money will bring us into a little over 9. Our goal is around 17, but we're getting there. We're getting there. It's something that popped up probably 8-9 years ago, and it's been a challenge, but we're meeting that challenge. OPEB, that's our other post-employment benefits, retiree benefits. Now, that is something that's up to $116 million, specifically 115.7. I'll round it to 116. What makes that unique is that started in 2008 and was set up to be funded to an amount of $106 million by 2038. We're in 2021, 17 years early, and we've been able to get that fund fully funded. Now, of course, what's important about that kind of investment is you got to keep it. It's like I say, once you've gone somewhere and won some money, take your winnings and go home. Don't keep playing in the market, because the more shots they have at you, the better chance you may lose. But we're shifting our strategies to a more conservative. We're conservative now, but we're shifting to a more conservative approach. Lowering our target rate will keep us in line with what our expectations are for funding people's retirement benefits. We're way ahead of many, many, many counties. And I'm very proud to say that in the last 7 years that this commissioner has been on that board, the fund has gone from $65 million to $116 million, over $51 million. It's been a good run. Let's hope we can keep it up. Now, we also had a Critical Areas Commission meeting last week, and St. Mary's County was 2 of the agenda items. The county finally approved the requirements per the law passed in 2008 that required us to upgrade per Google Earth, GIS, whatever the latest technology is, to measure the amount of critical areas in a county or in a state or wherever critical areas apply. What's important is that St. Mary's County actually gained 3,703 acres in the critical area. Now, people may say, wow, that's a lot, and I agree, that is a lot. But the key gets to be is, it's not that your rights have been diminished. It just means we have a greater responsibility to the waterways of the Chesapeake Bay and to the rivers that flow through this county and to the general health of the environment. It's a good idea. It's something that we need to keep an eye on, and it's a new reality. But look, the key is we didn't have a choice. It was a law that was passed 13 years ago, and finally we got on board, and I think that's a good thing. Lastly, 2 p.m. today, we're cutting the ribbon for the new detention center. I'll call it the new jail. Many of you know this has gone on for years. There was a time when the county got involved with something the state was going to go half on. That was probably 10 years ago, however long ago that was, and that idea fell apart. County spent almost $2 million at that time on architectural and engineering, and the money was never allocated. The project was dropped. It's finally going to be done. And finally put that infrastructure project in the rearview mirror and move forward. And that's a good thing. Again, watch the heat, especially your animals. If you have any animals who are outside, they're in danger too. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. And for my final word here, for those of you who are even thinking about getting a vaccination, please go ahead and do that. I was disappointed in the northern part of the county this weekend where there was only, I think, only about 8 people that showed up to get a shot. And that's very disappointing. It's a heavily populated area. And we're trying our best. The health department's doing everything they can to branch out and try to go to these locations to get closer to you. You know, you're talking about transportation, they're right there. And best thing to do is go on our St. Mary's County Health Department's website to see where they're distributing these vaccines. And I think it's a good thing. I got mine in February, and I feel fine. I don't think nothing's happened to me, so I think it's all good. And as soon as we get more and more the bigger population, what does Anheuser-Busch want, 70% by July 4th?
That's the goal. I think he's going to get there.
So if Anheuser-Busch is going to give us all free beer, we all get vaccinated, come on. I mean, what else could he possibly ask for? To get a free beer just because you got a vaccination done? Come on. Let's get out there and get them done. And I think you'll be better off to do all this, and the whole country and the states and everything else will be able to get things really totally back to normal. That's what we need to do and get back to work. And on the Scott Cameron, my God, what a great thing in baseball at Salisbury. I think that is just tremendous. We got somebody locally here that's involved in a great team like that. And your alma mater, too. I mean, it's good.
Right.
That's good. That's tremendous. I'm glad to see
He was the
that.
best.
And Charlie Sims, I've known him for a long time.
Good man.
And I can remember one day walking into Buzzy's, this many years ago. I hadn't seen him probably in 25 years. And he looked at me, and I looked at him. He said, you don't know me. And I said, you know what, Charlie, I really don't remember you, but I remember your daughter. Sheila was a good-looking woman. And he about busted. He said, I thought you guys was thinking about his women. I said, I'm not thinking about you men. I'm thinking about women. You better believe it. And I said, she was a good-looking girl. So anyway, with that said, we got a closed session coming up. I need to get a motion to go into closed session. We should probably do it right now.
Take a motion I move to move into executive session for the discussion of personnel.
Second.
First, second, all in favor? Aye. And remember, 2 p.m., we have the ribbon cutting.